Hi, thanks so much, Ken, and thank you all for coming. My name is Tammy Kim, and I'm a journalist here in New York, and I also write quite a bit about Korean literature, and so it's really my honor to be here with Kang and to celebrate the book. I thought I'd give just a couple of introductory comments to contextualize her work if you're less familiar with it. So here goes. Many of you first heard of Kang in 2016 with the publication of her 2007 book, The Vegetarian, or 채식주의자 in English translation. It's a physically raw, at times gruesome story about a woman stuck in a conventional marriage in an unrecognizable life. Oh, God. Sorry. You didn't see any of those. All right, let's do it. In giving up meat, she gives up language and a certain set of emotional and sexual constraints and sees reality dissolve. The novel resonated not only in Korea, where gendered norms and filial expectations are sharply felt, but in the US and around the world. And its success among Anglo American readers had a sort of boomerang effect. The Vegetarian's English release coincided with a feminist upsurge in Korea in 2016, long before the Harvey Weinstein revelations catalyzed Me Too here. Kang and her translator Deborah Smith won the 2016 Man Booker Prize, the first writer-translator pair to do so. This drew attention not only to Kang's work, but to the full, marvelous world of Korean novels, stories, poems, and essays, more and more in translation, thanks in part to South Korea's Literature Translation Institute, a co-sponsor of tonight's event. Korean books, old and new, but because of Kang's success, especially those produced by contemporary women, are circulating in English as never before. Kang's second book in English, Human Acts, 소년이 온다, for me a gut-punching standout, narrates the Gwangju Uprising and Massacre of 1980 and its many afterlives. As a child, Kang lived in Gwangju, where her father, the writer Han Sung-won, shielded her from the bedlam of that period. But he eventually had to explain the authoritarian government's crackdown on democracy activists. In Human Acts, the victims and survivors of Gwangju speak and lead us up to the present. Gwangju, in fact, is still contested terrain. The former president who ordered the massacre was pardoned and remains a public figure, continuing to lay blame on North Korean spies. The current president, Moon Jae-in, has tried to make amends, paying his respects graveside. In contrast to Human Acts and The Vegetarian, Kang's third translated volume, Hin, the White Book, is a personal, poetic journey. Written from Warsaw, it is quiet, aphoristic, and visual, an encounter with white objects and sensations. It also represents Kang's growing interest in performance art and visual culture. She and filmmaker Im Hong-soo partnered on an installation in last year's Carnegie International. And next month, Kang will contribute an unpublished text to the Future Library Project, an ongoing intervention in a Norwegian spruce forest. Her work will be buried there and remain underground for nearly a century until it is published on paper made from local trees. Tonight, Kang will read several chapters from the White Book in the original Korean, and I'll read the corresponding English. We'll reserve plenty of time for question and answer with all of you, assisted by our fantastic interpreter, Chongun Annabelle Wee, a comparative literature scholar at Rutgers and an activist with Norutor. And Kang's books, as Ken mentioned, will be available for purchase and signing afterwards. Thank you again for coming. So the structure is Kang will read from the original in Korean, and I will do a poor reading in English. We'll alternate that way, and then we'll move into our question and answer.
안녕하세요. Good evening. Absolutely, it's my great pleasure to be here and to read Him, the White Book. This book has 3 chapters and I'm going to read... Why am I talking in English? 그냥 흰이 3부가 있는데
There are 3 parts to the book.
각 챕터에서 조금씩 읽어볼게요.
And I'll be reading sections of each.
이 책을 읽지 않은 사람들을 위해 잠깐 말씀드리자면
If I were to just say a few words for people who haven't read the book yet,
첫 번째 챕터의 제목은 나,
the first part is na, me, I.
두 번째 챕터는 그녀,
Next is kunyo or you, the other or the person.
세 번째 챕터는 모든 흰이에요.
And then all whiteness, the third.
여기서 그녀는 나의 언니를 말하는데요. 그 언니는 제가 태어나기 4년 전에 태어나서 약 2시간 정도 살아있다가 세상을 떠났습니다.
And that other, the second chapter, that woman is my older sister who passed as a newborn.
제가 2014년에 폴란드에서 레지던시 프로그램에 참여를 했는데 그때 이 언니에게 생명을 주고 싶다고 생각했어요.
In 2014, I was at a residency in Warsaw, and it was at that time that I thought I would pay tribute to this long-lost older sister.
그녀에게 저의 생명을 빌려줘서 나 대신 살게 하고 싶었어요.
So to this person, it was a way of giving life.
I wanted to lend my life to her and I wanted her to live in Warsaw instead of me, and it was very weird imagination, but it's like 소년이 온다, human acts. I wanted to lend my body and sensation and feeling to the people who were killed in 1980. So it was a bit similar process for me, and I read in Korean. It has 60 fragments, and I chose just following my intuition. So 벤의 옷. 내 어머니가 낳은 첫 아기는 태어난 지 2시간 만에 죽었다고 했다. 달떡처럼 얼굴이 흰 여자아이였다고 했다. 8달 만에 조산이라 몸이 아주 작았지만 눈, 코, 입이 또렷하고 예뻤다고 했다. 까만 눈을 뜨고 어머니의 얼굴 쪽을 바라보던 순간을 잊을 수 없다고 했다.
Newborn gown. My mother's first child died, I was told, less than 2 hours into life. I was told that she was a girl with a face as white as a crescent moon rice cake. Though she was very small, 2 months premature, her features were clearly defined. I can never forget, my mother told me, the moment she opened her 2 black eyes and turned them towards my face.
당시 어머니는 시골 초등학교 교사로 부임한 아버지와 함께 외딴 사택에 살았다. 산딸이 많이 남아 준비가 전혀 없었는데 오전에 갑자기 양수가 터졌다. 아무도 주변에 없었다. 마을의 한 대뿐인 전화기는 20분 거리의 정류장 앞 전방에 있었다. 아버지가 퇴근하려면 아직 6시간도 더 남았다.
At the time, my parents were living in an isolated house in the countryside near the primary school where my father taught. My mother's due date was still far off, so she was completely unprepared when, one morning, her water broke. There was no one around. The village's sole telephone was in a tiny shop by the bus, 20 minutes away. My father wouldn't be back from work for another 6 hours.
막 서리가 내린 초겨울이었다. 23살의 엄마는 엉금엉금 부엌으로 기어가 어디선가 들은 대로 물을 끓이고 가위를 소독했다. 반지꼬리 상자를 뒤져보니 작은 베네옷 하나를 만들 만한 흰 천이 있었다. 산통을 참으며 무서워서 눈물이 떨어지는 대로 바느질을 했다. 베네옷을 다 만들고 강보로 쓸 혼이불을 꺼내놓고 점점 격렬하고 빠르게 되돌아오는 통증을 견뎠다.
It was early winter, the first frost of the year. My 22-year-old mother crawled into the kitchen and boiled some water to sterilize a pair of scissors. Fumbling in her sewing box, she found some white cloth that would do for a newborn's gown.
마침내 혼자 아기를 낳았다. 혼자 탯줄을 잘랐다. 피 묻은 조그만 몸에다 방금 만든 베네옷을 입혔다. 죽지 마라 제발. 가느다란 소리로 우는 손바닥만한 아기를 안으며 되풀이해 중얼거렸다. 처음엔 꼭 감겨있던 아기의 눈꺼풀이 1시간이 흐르자 거짓말처럼 방긋 열렸다. 그 까만 눈에 눈을 맞추며 다시 중얼거렸다. 제발 죽지 마. 1시간쯤 더 흘러 아기는 죽었다. 죽은 아기를 가슴에 품고 모로 누워 그 몸이 점점 싸늘해지는 걸 견뎠다. 더 이상 눈물이 흐르지 않았다.
She finished the tiny gown, found a thin quilt to use as swaddling bands, and gritted her teeth as the pain returned, quicker and more intense each time. Eventually, she gave birth. Still alone, she cut the umbilical cord. She dressed the bloodied little body in the gown she'd just made and held the whimpering scrap in her arms. For God's sake, don't die, she muttered in a thin voice over and over like a mantra. After an hour had passed, the baby's tight-sealed eyelids abruptly unseamed. As my mother's eyes met those of her child, her lips twitched again. For God's sake, don't die. Around an hour later, the baby was dead. They lay there on the kitchen floor, my mother on her side with the dead baby clutched to her chest, feeling the cold gradually enter into the flesh, sinking through to the bone. No more crying.
흰 도시. 1945년 봄, 미군의 항공기가 촬영한 이 도시의 영상을 보았다. 도시 동쪽에 지어진 기념관 2층의 영사실에서였다. 1944년 10월부터 6개월여 동안 이 도시의 95%가 파괴되었다고 그 필름의 자막은 말했다. 유럽에서 유일하게 나치에 저항하여 봉기를 일으켰던 이 도시를 1944년 9월 한 달 동안 극적으로 독일군을 몰아냈고 시민 자치가 이루어졌던 이 도시를 히틀러는 가능한 모든 수단을 동원해 깨끗이 본보기로써 쓸어버리라고 명령했다.
White City. I saw some footage of this city, taken by a U.S. military aircraft in the spring of 1945. The film was screened in the projection room on the first floor of the Memorial Hall situated in the east of the city. The subtitles said that, over a period of 6 months starting in October 1944, 95% of the city was obliterated. This city, whose people rose up against the Nazis, from which the German soldiers were driven out in September 1944, and where a month of civilian government was achieved, and hence Hitler's decision to use any means necessary to sweep it clean out of existence as an example.
처음 영상이 시작되었을 때 높은 곳에서 내려다본 도시는 마치 눈이 쌓인 것처럼 보였다. 희끗한 눈이나 얼음 위에 약간씩 그을음이 내려앉아 얼룩덜룩 더럽혀진 것 같았다. 비행기가 고도를 낮추며 도시의 모습이 가까워졌다. 눈에 덮인 것도 얼음 위에 그을음이 내려앉은 것도 아니었다. 모든 건물이 무너지고 부서져 있었다. 돌로 된 잔해들의 흰빛 위로 검게 불에 탄 흔적이 눈 닿는 데까지 끝없이 이어져 있었다.
When the film opened, the city seen from far above appeared as though mantled with snow. A gray-white sheet of snow or ice on which a light dusting of soot had settled, sullying it with dappled stains. The plane reduced its altitude, and the city's visage sharpened. There was no snow covering it, no soot-streaked ice. The buildings had been smashed to pieces, literally pulverized. Above the white glow of stone ruins were blackened flecks as far as the eye could see, showing where the fire had touched.
그날 버스를 타고 집으로 돌아오던 길에 오래전 성이 있었다는 공원에서 내렸다. 제법 넓은 공원 숲을 가로질러 한참 걸으니 옛 병원 건물이 나왔다. 1944년 공습으로 파괴되었던 병원을 원래의 모습대로 복원한 뒤 미술관으로 사용하는 곳이었다. 종달새와 흡사한 높은 음조로 새들이 우는 울창한 나무들이 무수히 팔과 팔을 맞댄 소로를 따라 걸어 나오며 깨달았다. 그러니까 이 모든 것들이 한 번 죽었었다. 이 나무들과 새들, 길들, 거리들, 집들과 전차들, 사람들이 모두.
Riding the bus back to my flat, I got off at the park, which I'd heard housed a very old castle. After a while, walking through its forested grounds, I came upon an old hospital building. A faithful reconstruction of a building that had been destroyed in a 1944 air raid, no longer used as a hospital, but as an art gallery. As I passed along the narrow trail vaulted with a mass of intertwined tree limbs, where the bird's high trill put me in mind of skylarks, it occurred to me that all of these things had, at one time, been dead. These trees and birds, paths and streets, houses and trams, and all of these people.
그러므로 이 도시에는 70년 이상 된 것들이 존재하지 않는다. 구시가의 성곽들과 화려한 궁전, 시 외곽에 있는 왕들의 호숫가 여름 별장은 모두 가짜다. 사진과 그림과 지도에 의지해 끈질기게 복원한 새 것이다. 간혹 어떤 기둥이나 벽들의 아랫부분이 살아남았을 경우에는 그 옆과 위로 새 기둥과 새 벽이 연결되어 있다. 오래된 아랫부분과 새 것인 윗부분을 분할하는 경계, 파괴를 증언하는 선들이 도드라지게 노출되어 있다.
In this city, there is nothing that has existed for more than 70 years. The fortresses of the old quarter, the splendid palace, the lakeside villa on the outskirts where royalty once summered are all fakes. They are new things painstakingly reconstructed based on photographs, pictures, maps. Where a pillar or perhaps the lower part of a wall happens to have survived, it has been incorporated into the new structure. The boundaries which separate old from new, the seams bearing witness to destruction, lie conspicuously exposed.
그 사람에 대해 처음 생각한 것은 그날이었다.
It was on that day as I walked through the park that she first came into my mind.
이 도시와 같은 운명을 가진 어떤 사람, 한 차례 죽었거나 파괴되었던 사람, 그을린 자네들 위해 끈덕지게 스스로를 복원한 사람, 그래서 아직 새 것인 사람, 어떤 기둥, 어떤 늙은 석벽들의 아랫부분이 살아남아 그 위에 덧쌓은 선명한 새 것과 연결된 이상한 무늬를 가지게 된 사람.
A person who had met the same fate as that city, who had at one time died or been destroyed, who had painstakingly rebuilt themselves on a foundation of fire-scoured ruins, who was therefore something new, who, some broken pediment having survived, has ended up bearing a strange pattern, the new distinct from the old.
어둠 속에서 어떤 사물들은 희어 보인다. 어렴풋한 빛이 어둠 속으로 새어 들어올 때 그리 희지 않던 것들까지도 창백하게 빛을 발한다. 밤이면 불을 끈 거실 한쪽에 소파 침대를 펴고 누워 잠을 청하는 대신 그 헬쓱한 빛 속에서 시간이 흐르는 것을 느꼈다. 흰 회벽에 어른거리는 창밖 나무들의 형상을 바라보았다. 그 사람, 이 도시와 비슷한 어떤 사람의 얼굴을 곰곰이 생각했다. 그 윤곽과 표정이 서서히 뚜렷해지길 기다렸다.
Certain objects in the darkness. Certain objects appear white in the darkness. When darkness is imbued with even the faintest light, even things which would not otherwise be white glow with a hazy pallor. At night, I make up the sofa bed in the corner of the living room and lie down in that wan light. Instead of trying to sleep, I wait, feel my senses attuned to the passage of time. The trees outside the window cast silhouettes onto the white plaster wall. I think about the person who resembles the city, pondering the cast of their face, waiting for its contours to coalesce, to be able to read the expression it holds.
빛이 있는 쪽. 이 도시의 유태인 게토에서 6살에 죽은 친형의 혼과 함께 평생을 살고 있다고 주장하는 남자의 실화를 읽었다. 분명히 비현실적인 이야기인데 그렇게 일축하기 어려운 진지한 어조로 쓰여진 글이었다. 형상도 감촉도 없이 한 아이의 목소리가 시시로 그에게 찾아왔다. 그는 벨기에인 가정에 입양되어 자랐기 때문에 이 나라의 언어를 전혀 몰랐으며 자신에게 형이 있었다는 사실조차 알지 못했다. 따라서 모든 것이 운 나쁘게 반복되는 자각몽이거나 창란 증상이라고만 생각했다. 자신의 가족사를 뒤늦게 알게 된 18살에 그는 아직도 찾아오는 그 혼을 이해하기 위해 이 나라의 언어를 공부했다. 어린 형이 지금까지도 겁에 질려 있다는 것을 그렇게 알았다. 군에게 체포되기 직전 뱉었던 공포에 휩싸인 몇 마디 말을 반복해서 외치고 있다는 것을 알았다.
The direction of the light. I read an account by a man born in this city, in which he claimed to have lived for as long as he could remember with the soul of his elder brother, who had died aged 6 in the Jewish ghetto. The child's voice came to him from time to time, he said, with neither form nor texture. In addition, the language was foreign to him, as he'd been adopted by a Belgian couple and grown up in that country, meaning he hadn't at first been able to tell that the speaker was his brother. It could only be a waking dream, he thought, in which everything is doomed to recur, or else a symptom of derangement. When, at the age of 18, he finally came to learn of his family history, he began to study the language of his country, to understand what the soul was trying to tell him, and thus he learned of his brother's fear, this brother both older and younger, that he was screaming the same handful of terror-struck words choked out when the soldiers had come to arrest him.
결국 타살되었을 6살 배기 아이의 최후를 상상하고 싶지 않아 그 이야기를 읽은 뒤 여러 날 잠을 설쳤다. 그러던 어느 새벽 마침내 마음이 고요해졌을 때 생각했다. 태어나 2시간 동안 살아있었다는 어머니의 첫 아기가 만일 나를 이따금 찾아와 함께 있었다면 나로서는 그걸 알 길이 없었을 것이다. 그이에게는 언어를 배울 시간이 없었으니까. 1시간 동안 눈을 열고 어머니 쪽을 바라보았다고 했지만 아직 시신경이 깨어나지 않아 어머니의 얼굴을 보지 못했을 것이다. 오직 목소리만을 들었을 것이다. 죽지 마, 죽지 마라 제발. 알아들을 수 없었을 그 말이 그이가 들은 유일한 음성이었을 것이다.
I slept badly for several days after reading this, unable to stop my thoughts from turning to the final moments of that 6-year-old child who would ultimately have been murdered. In the small hours of one such restless night, when the roiling inside me had finally calmed, it occurred to me that if I had been similarly visited myself by my mother's first child who had lived just 2 hours, I would have been utterly oblivious, because the girl had never learned language at all. For an hour she had held her eyes open, held them in the direction of our mother's face, but her optic nerves never had time to awaken, and so that face had remained beyond reach. For her there would have been only a voice. Don't die. For God's sake, don't die. Unintelligible words, the only words she was ever to hear.
그러니 확언할 수도 부인할 수도 없다. 그이가 나에게 때로 찾아왔었는지, 잠시 내 이마와 눈 언저리에 머물렀었는지, 어린 시절 내가 느낀 어떤 감각과 막연한 감정 가운데 모르는 사이 그이로부터 건너온 것들이 있었는지, 어둑한 방에 누워 추위를 느끼는 순간은 누구에게나 찾아오니까 죽지 마, 죽지 마라 제발. 해독할 수 없는 사랑과 고통의 목소리를 향해, 희끗한 빛과 체온이 있는 쪽을 향해 어둠 속에서 나도 그렇게 눈을 뜨고 바라봤던 건지도 모른다.
And so I can neither confirm nor deny that there are times when she has sought me out, hovering at my forehead or by the corners of my eyes, that some vague sensation I had known as a child, some stirring of seemingly unprompted emotion might, unbeknown to me, have been coming from her. For there are moments lying in the darkened room when the chill in the air is a palpable presence. Don't die. For God's sake, don't die. Turned towards indecipherable sounds laden with love and anguish, towards a pale blur and body heat. Perhaps I too have opened my eyes in the darkness as she did and gazed out.
이렇게 해서 2장으로 넘어가게 되면 이제 제가 그녀라고 상상하면서 사물들을 보고 바르샤바 거리를 걷고 그러면서 흰 것들에 대해서 생각하는 그런 내용들이 나옵니다.
If we're now to move to the second part of the book, this is the stage at which I was kind of moving, walking through the city and thinking of her and how I would make sense of her, the white and reflecting on white objects in that space.
왜냐하면 나는 그녀에게 흰 것을 주고 싶었어요. 다른 거 말고 하얀 것들,
Because for me, I wanted to give white things to her. Not other things, just white things.
흰 것들은 뭐 소금도 있고 파도도 있고 뭔가 근원적인 눈도 있고요. 그리고 태어날 때 입는 베네 옷부터 죽을 때 입는 수의까지 흰 것이라는 건 근원적인 것이라고 생각했어요.
Because white is sort of the color of limits. You have salt and waves. It's the color of the clothes that you wear when you're born and when you die.
손수건. 후미진 주택가 건물 아래를 걷던 늦여름 오후에 그녀는 봤다. 어떤 여자가 3층 베란다 끝에서 빨래를 걷다 실수로 일부를 떨어뜨렸다. 손수건 한 장이 가장 느리게 마지막으로 떨어졌다. 날개를 반쯤 접은 새처럼 머뭇머뭇 내려앉을 때를 살피는 혼처럼.
Handkerchief. She saw it one afternoon in late summer as she was walking past a secluded tenement building. A woman on the second floor was hanging her washing out over the balcony rail when a handful of items slipped from her grasp. A single handkerchief drifted down, slowest of all, finally to the ground. Like a bird with its wings half furled, like a soul tentatively sounding out a place it might alight.
레이스 커튼. 얼어붙은 거리를 걷던 그녀가 한 건물의 2층을 올려다본다. 성근 레이스 커튼이 창을 가리고 있다. 더럽혀지지 않는 어떤 흰 것이 우리 안에 어른어른 너울거리고 있기 때문에 저렇게 정갈한 사물을 대할 때마다 우리 마음은 움직이는 것일까? 새로 빨아 바싹 말린 흰 베갯잎과 이불보가 무엇인가를 말하는 것 같다고 느껴질 때가 있다. 거기 그녀의 맨살이 닿을 때 순면의 흰 천이 무슨 말을 건네는 것 같다. 당신은 귀한 사람이라고. 당신의 잠은 깨끗하고 당신이 살아있다는 건 부끄러운 일이 아니라고. 잠과 생시 사이에서 바스락거리는 순면의 침대보에 맨살이 닿을 때 그녀는 그렇게 이상한 위로를 받는다.
Lace curtain. Is it because of some billowing whiteness within us, unsullied, inviolate, that our encounters with objects so pristine never fail to leave us moved? Her passage through the frozen streets brings her to the building, where her gaze lifts to the first floor, to the flimsy lace curtain hanging there. There are times when the crisp white of freshly laundered bed linen can seem to speak. When that pure cotton fabric grazes her bare flesh just there, it seems to tell her something. You are a noble person. Your sleep is clean, and the fact of your living is nothing to be ashamed of. Such is the strange comfort she receives at that in-between time, when sleep borders wakefulness, when that crisp cotton bed sheet brushes her skin.
흰 나비. 만일 삶이 직선으로 뻗어 있는 것이 아니라면 어느 사이 그녀는 굽이진 모퉁이를 돌아간 자신을 발견할지도 모른다. 문득 뒤돌아본다 해도 그동안 자신이 겪은 어떤 것도 한눈에 보이지 않는 새로운 국면으로 접어들었다는 사실을 깨닫게 될지도 모른다. 그 길은 눈이나 서리 대신 연하고 끈덕진 연두빛 봄풀들로 덮여 있을지도 모른다. 문득 팔락이며 날아가는 흰나비가 그녀의 눈길을 잡아채고 떨며 번민하는 혼 같은 그 날갯짓을 따라 그녀가 몇 걸음 더 나아가게 될지도 모른다. 그제야 주변의 모든 나무들이 무엇인가에 사로잡힌 듯 되살아나고 있다는 사실을, 숨막히는 낯선 향기를 뿜고 있다는 사실을, 더 무성해지기 위해 위로, 허공으로, 밝은 쪽으로 타오르고 있다는 사실을 깨달을지도 모른다.
White butterfly. Were it not the case that life stretches out in a straight line, she might at some point become aware of having rounded a bend, bringing perhaps the realization that nothing of the past could now be glimpsed were she to cast a quick glance over her shoulder. This road might be covered not with snow or frost, but with the soft tenacity of pale green spring grasses. A white butterfly, stuttering forwards, might snatch at her gaze, tug her a few paces further in the wake of those wing beats, like a soul's fretful palpitations. She might become aware only then of the surrounding trees, their slow reanimation as though enthralled to something, giving off a strange and stifling scent, flaring up into a still more lush proliferation, into thin air towards the light.
이렇게 이 두 개의 장을 폴란드에서 머물 때 썼고요.
I wrote the first two parts in Poland when I was there,
그리고 서울로 돌아왔어요.
and then I came back to Seoul.
그리고 깨달았어요. 만약에 그녀가 죽지 않고 살았다면 아마 내가 태어나지 못했을 것이라고.
And then I had a realization that if she had lived, then perhaps I would not have been born.
그리고 내가 살아있다는 것은 그녀가 죽었다는 증거이기도 하다고.
And I saw my own life as evidence of the fact that she had died.
그래서 제가 아무리 내가 그녀라고 상상한다 해도 그것은 불가능한 것이고 우리는 만날 수가 없는 거죠.
And so even if I conjure her into being, it's not true. We would never have coexisted.
그래서 작별을 해야 했습니다.
So then I was conjuring a parting.
소복. 결혼식을 앞둔 이들은 서로의 부모에게 옷을 선물해야 한다. 산자에게는 비단 옷을, 망자에게는 무명 소복을. 함께 가줄 거지? 라고 동생은 전화로 물었다. 누나가 올 때까지 기다렸어. 동생의 신부가 마련해온 흰 무명 치마 저고리를 나는 바위 위에 올렸다. 아침마다 독경 뒤에 어머니의 이름이 불리워지는 절 아래 풀숲이었다. 동생이 건넨 라이터로 소매에 불을 붙이자 파르스름한 연기가 일었다. 흰 옷이 그렇게 허공에 스미면 넋이 그것을 입을 거라고 우리는 정말 믿고 있는가?
Mourning robes. Before two people get married, each gives clothes to the other's parents. Silk clothes for those still living, cotton mourning robes for the departed. My brother called to check that I would go with him. I waited until you came back, Nuna. The woman he was to marry had prepared a white cotton skirt and jacket, which I spread out on the rock. In a meadow of long grasses beneath the temple where a mother's name is chanted after each morning sutras. As soon as I held my brother's lighter to the sleeve, a thread of blue-tinged smoke spiraled up. After white clothes dissolve into the air this way, a spirit will wear them. Do we really believe that?
여기는 없는데 그 다음 것을 이어서 읽을게요.
We don't have a projection for this, but I'm going to go ahead and read the next part as well.
연기. 입을 다문 채 우리들은 끈질기게 바라보고 있었다. 거대하게 부푼 잿빛 날개 같은 연기가 허공에 스미고 있었다. 사라지고 있었다. 삽시간에 저고리를 태운 불이 치마로 타들어가는 것을 나는 봤다. 무명 치마의 마지막 밑단이 불꽃 속으로 빨려 들어갈 때 당신을 생각했다. 당신 올 수 있다면 지금 오기를. 연기로 지은 저 옷을 날개 옷처럼 걸쳐주기를. 말 대신 우리 침묵이 저 연기 속으로 스미고 있으니 쓴 약처럼 쓴 차처럼 그걸 마셔주기를.
Smoke. We kept our eyes fixed intently on what was in front of us, our mouths tightly shut. Smoke, like a pair of ash-gray wings, was dissolving into the air, disappearing. I saw the fire, having consumed the jacket, run instantly onto the skirt. When the last strip of cloth was swallowed by the flames, I thought of you. If you can come to us now, then do. Slip on those clothes that the fire has borne to you, like slipping on a pair of wings. Drink it like medicine or tea, our silence dissolving into smoke in place of words.
작별. 죽지 마, 죽지 마라 제발. 말을 모르던 당신이 검은 눈을 뜨고 들은 말을 내가 입술을 열어 중얼거린다. 백지에 힘껏 눌러 쓴다. 그것만이 최선의 작별의 말이라고 믿는다. 죽지 말아요. 살아가요.
Parting. Don't die. For God's sake, don't die. I open my lips and mutter the words you heard on opening your black eyes, you who were ignorant of language. I press down with all my strength onto the white paper. I believe that no better words of parting can be found. Don't die. Live.
모든 흰, 당신의 눈으로 흰 배추 속 가장 깊고 환한 곳, 가장 귀하게 숨겨진 어린 잎사귀를 볼 것이다. 낮에 뜬 반달의 서늘함을 볼 것이다. 언젠가 빙하를 볼 것이다. 각진 굴곡마다 푸르스름한 그늘이 진 거대한 얼음을 생명이었던 적이 없어 더 신성한 생명처럼 느껴지는 그것을 올려다볼 것이다. 자작나무 숲의 침묵 속에서 당신을 볼 것이다. 겨울 해가 드는 창의 정적 속에서 볼 것이다. 비스듬히 천장에 비춰진 광선을 따라 흔들리는 빛나는 먼지 분말들 속에서 볼 것이다. 그 흰, 모든 흰 것들 속에서 당신이 마지막으로 내쉰 숨을 들이마실 것이다.
All whiteness. With your eyes, I will see the deepest, most dazzling place within a white cabbage, the precious young petals concealed at its heart. With your eyes, I will see the chill of the half moon risen in the day. At some point, those eyes will see a glacier. They will look up at that enormous mass of ice and see something sacred, unsullied by life. They will see inside the silence of the white birch forest, inside the stillness of the window where the winter sun seeps in, inside those shining grains of dust, swaying along the shafts of light which slant onto the ceiling. Within that white, all of those white things, I will breathe in the final breath you released.
감사합니다.
Thank you so much. Please join me in applauding for Hanga. So Jongwon is now going to join us, our fearless interpreter. I have just a couple of questions and then I'll turn it over to all of you, so please think about what you'd like to ask. Actually, no. Thank you. Ton of papers, thank you. All right. So one thing I was curious about, so your work, at least the ones in translation so far, have sort of gotten more personal. And both 흰 and 소년이 온대 obviously are drawing on familial experiences, this one much more so. Could you talk about putting yourself into these works?
사실 이 책, 흰에 나오는 이야기들은 거의 다 자전적인 것이에요.
In fact, most of the stories in this book are all biographical.
한 가지 예외가 있다면 3장에서 그 어머니를 위해서 이제 소복을 불태우는 장면이 있는데 그것은 제가 상상한 것입니다.
The only exception is in chapter 3 where I imagine for my mother burning the white mourning clothes. That's what I imagined.
어떤 작별을 위한 어떤 의식을 생각했고 이 소복을 태우는 경험은 저희 어머니를 위해서가 아니라 이제 예전에 다른 이제 경우에 제가 했던 것이에요.
I needed something, a ritual to say goodbye, and it is based on something I did in a different event for myself.
그리고 어머니는 아직 살아 계세요.
My mother is still alive.
그리고 소년이 온다에서 에필로그도 마찬가지로 자전적인 요소도 있고 약간의 허구적인 것도 있어요.
Also, in the epilogue of Human Acts, some of it is autobiographical and others are made up.
근데 저는 이렇게 새롭게 허구적인 것을 넣었다고 해도 시간이 흐르고 나면 그것을 마치 제가 겪은 것처럼 느껴지기도 해요.
Even when I insert fictional events into my own work. After some time passes, I experience it as something that has actually happened.
I mentioned briefly in the introduction that you are also interested in performance art and visual art. And I think Heen also reflects this kind of abstraction and interest in images. Can you say a little bit about this interest?
흰이 한국에서 출간되기 한 2개월 전에 갑자기 어떤 아이디어가 떠올라서 4개의 퍼포먼스를 하고 그것을 이제 영상에 담았었습니다.
Before this book was published, 2 months before that, I actually got an idea all of a sudden, and I did 4 performances.
그래서 아까 잠깐 사진이 나왔었는데요.
You saw some pictures earlier.
그 아기, 언니, 그녀를 위해서 옷을 만들었어요.
I made clothes for the baby or my older sister, the her of chapter 2.
그리고 하얀 돌을 계속 씻었는데요.
I kept washing white stones
물로도 씻고 소금으로도 씻고요.
with water and with salt.
그 돌은 이미 깨끗했지만 계속 씻었어요.
Even though the stones were already clean, I kept washing them.
그녀를 위해서 그 일을 했습니다.
I kept doing this for her.
그리고 어머니가 그 아이를 위해서 했던 말, 죽지 마라 제발 이라는 말을 이제 하얀 종이에 쓰고 그것을 하얀 깃털로 덮었어요.
I wrote on white piece of paper something that my mother repeated to her, which is "Please don't die for God's sake," and I covered over that with white feathers.
그리고 최근에 이제 또 영상을 이제 그 퍼포먼스에 이어서 이제 최근에 작년 3월에 하나 더 했어요.
After that that recording, the performance last year in March,
예, 다른 퍼포먼스를
I did a different performance in
그래서
March last year.
그게 이제 지금 미국판 흰의 표지에 나오는 그 사진입니다.
That is on the cover of the U.S. Translation of this book.
그래서 저와 이제 저의 친구 작가가 이제 하얗고 커다란 거즈로 만든 천을 날랐어요. 날랐어요.
I carried with my another writer friend a big white gauze
숲에서 바다까지.
from the forest to the ocean.
그래서 여기 보면 바다는 보이지 않지만 이 너머에 있습니다.
So you cannot see the ocean, but it's beyond what's shown.
그래서 이 영상은 피츠버그에서 작년에 열린 카네기 인터내셔널에서 처음으로 사람들에게 공개되었어요.
So this was displayed for the first time in last year's Carnegie International.
Yeah, thank you. 감사합니다. Many of you might have heard that there was some controversy around the translation of The Vegetarian, and obviously Kang speaks very good English and has followed some of that dispute in English language coverage, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that controversy and maybe more generally also about seeing your work in English translation.
It's a long story.
It's a long story.
Where can I start? 좀 제가 이제 그 논쟁이 계속되고 점점 더 이렇게 격해지는 걸 계속 지켜봤는데요.
So I saw the controversy unfold and escalate and intensify.
사실은 그냥 제가 경험한 것을 말하고 싶기도 했어요.
I also wanted to just say something that I experienced.
그렇지만 굉장히 민감한 문제라서 말하기가 좀 쉽지 않더라고요.
But because it is such a sensitive topic, it was difficult to talk about it.
그리고 번역자랑 저는 친구고
I am also friends with the translator.
그리고 이러한 논란이 뭔가 그 책 자체를 읽는데 방해가 되지 않을지 걱정이 됐어요.
I was also worried that maybe the controversy would distract from the work itself and your experience reading the work.
저희가 조금 놀랐던 것은 이 논란이 뭔가 이 책의 성공에 대해서 다루고 있다는 것이었어요.
Something that surprised us was actually that the controversy had something to do with the success of the book.
근데 저는 이 책과 성공이란 말이 어울리는 것 같지 않아요.
But I don't think that book has a lot to do with the word success.
제가 이 책을 쓴 것은 2003년부터 2005년까지였는데요. 제 인생에서 가장 어두웠던 시기들 중에 하나였습니다.
I wrote that book between 2013 and 2015, and I would consider it one of the darkest moments of my life.
2003 and 2005.
2003 and 2005. Sorry.
네, 건강도 좋지 않았고 개인적 상황도 좋지 않았고 그래서 이런 이야기를 상상했어요.
My
But-
health. My health wasn't great, and I also had personal situations. So I imagined the following scenario.
그리고 어떤 여자, 더 이상 인류에 속하고 싶지 않은 어떤 여자를 상상했고 그 여자를 끝까지 돌보려 하는 그녀의 언니를 상상했습니다.
I imagined a woman who no longer wanted to live among humanity, and also her older sister who wanted to take care of her.
그래서 이 소설을 쓰는 동안에는 이 소설이 출간될 거라는 생각조차 하지 않았어요.
As I was writing this novel, I didn't imagine that it could be published.
왜냐하면 그때 제가 손이 많이 아파서 타이핑하는 것 자체가 힘들었거든요.
Because my hand was injured and it was very difficult to type at that time.
그래서 그냥 이 책이 완성되었을 때는 완성되었다는 것 자체가 저에게는 의미가 있었습니다.
So when the book was completed, that in and of itself was meaningful for me.
그래서 저는 이 소설과 어떤 성공을 연결시키는 일이 굉장히 어려운 일이에요.
So it is very difficult for me to associate this book with success.
근데 그 논란의 대부분은 이 번역과 원본이 다르지 않은가? 그리고 성공과 영광은 누구의 것인가? 뭐 이런 것이었어요.
But most of the controversy was regarding whether there was much difference between the translation and the original, and for who was benefiting from the success of the book.
굉장히 이상한 시각이었다고 저는 생각하고 있는데요.
I think it's a very strange perspective.
사실은 이제 저의 번역자가 한국어를 배운 지 얼마 되지 않았을 때 이 번역을 시작했어요.
The translator of the book started translating not long after learning Korean.
그래서 사실은 이제 실수를 많이 했죠.
So naturally, she made some mistakes.
그리고 1장에 아주 많이 실수가 있고요.
Most,
2장으로 가면 좀 줄고 3장으로 가면 또 더 줄고 그래요.
most of the mistakes are concentrated in the first chapter, and then there's a little less in the second, and a little less in the third.
그래서 사실은 제가 후회하는 것이 하나 있어요.
So something that I regret actually.
처음에 그 데보라, 이제 저의 친구가 된 데보라가 이제 자신의 번역본을 이메일로 보내줬었는데요.
So Deborah, who became my friend, she sent me the translation by email at first.
근데 그때 저는 소년이 온다라는 저에게 아주 중요한 책을 열심히 쓰고 있을 때였어요.
It was a time when I was already working on Human Acts, which was very important to me.
그걸 쓰는 일 자체가 저에게 아주 많은 에너지를 요구했기 때문에 사실 그 번역본을 3시간 만에 그냥 다 읽었어요.
Writing that other novel took so much from me that I only spent 3 hours reading the entirety of the translation I was given.
그래서 한 줄 한 줄 비교하지 못했어요.
So I didn't compare line by line.
그리고 그냥 한 67개 좀 많이 다른 부분을 발견해서 그 부분에 대해서 이제 답장을 보내고 상당히 재밌는 이제 이야기를 나눴죠.
So I sent a response back pointing out several differences, and we had an interesting conversation.
예를 들면 이제 거기에 5월의 신부라는 두 번째 장의 내레이터의 별명이 나오는데요.
For example, in the second chapter, there's a nickname for the May bride.
한국말로 5월 그리고 신부가 두 가지 의미가 있어요. 동음이의어인데요. So 신부 has two meanings in Korea. One bride and the other priest. So and May has two meanings as well, and the beautiful month, the most beautiful month in the year, and the month of massacre in Gwangju in 1980. So it's kind of wordplay, but Deborah wondered how she could translate this without a footnote. So it was a very interesting discussion, and I gave her one line to use. So I wrote one line additionally. So that kind of things we did. I'm talking in English. so, 그런데 그렇게 해서 책이 출간되고 그 다음에 이제 소년이 온다가 또 번역을 이제 데보라가 맡아서 하게 되었어요.
So that first work was translated and published, and then Deborah also got my second work, The Human Acts.
네, 소년이 온다는 훨씬 더 어려운 텍스트죠. 왜냐하면 한국 역사, 정치, 문화 이런 컨텍스트들이 아주 많이 들어있기 때문이에요.
Human Acts is a bit more difficult to translate because it has a lot of cultural, historical, Korean context in it.
그때는 이제 그땐 제가 다른 소설 쓰고 있지 않았어요.
At that time, I wasn't working on another novel.
그래서 라인 바이 라인 이렇게 대조했어요.
So I was able to compare line by line the translation.
그래도 이제 제가 전문가가 아니기 때문에 조금씩 실수가 있기도 해요.
However, because I'm not an expert, of course, there are some mistakes there as well.
그렇지만 채식주의자에 비하면 훨씬 적죠.
However, compared to the vegetarian, there are much fewer mistakes.
이제 그 부커상이라는 상을 받은 다음에 아주 많은 이메일을 받았어요.
After I won the Booker Prize, I received a lot of emails
그 실수를 지적하는.
pointing out mistakes.
근데 이제 너무 바쁘고 좀 그래서 한 1년 넘게 그걸 바로잡지 못했습니다.
But I was very busy and I wasn't able to correct them for over a year.
그래서 한 1년 반 정도 지났을 때 데보라하고 같이 correction 리스트를 만들었어요.
So a year and a half later, I made a list with Deborah, a correction list.
그래서 67개의 그 노트를 만들었습니다.
So we made notes on 67 items.
그런데 그거 한 줄을 다른 한 줄로 바꾸고 뭐 한 단어를 한 단어로 바꾸고 그래서 한 페이지 안에 다 들어갔어요.
So we did all line by line, and we also did word by word, and we fitted it all into the same pages.
그래서 지금 호가스에서 지금 이제 그 리프린트를 한 몇 달 전에 했거든요. 그래서 지금 서점에 있는 채식주의자는 그렇게 이제 고쳐진 에디션이에요.
So the Hogarth ran this corrected translation, and so the copy that's out in the bookstores now is the corrected version of the vegetarian.
근데 오늘 그 편집자랑도 대화를 나눴는데 그렇게 한 페이지에 들어가는 한 줄 한 단어씩 바꾼 게 그 책에 어떤 뭐 중요한 영향을 끼치지 않는다는 거죠.
I talked with the editor, and the editor agreed that changing the line by line or word by word translation didn't affect the overall quality of the book.
그래서 이 논란에는 두 가지 논점이 있는데요.
So there are two main arguments in this controversy.
하나는 아주 명백한 이제 언어적 실수예요.
One is clearly about obvious language mistakes.
또 하나는 이제 이게 너무 다른 책 아니냐.
The second is, isn't this too different of a book?
근데 이게 너무 다른 책이 아니냐라는 것의 근거로서 이 실수들이 이제 그 증거가 되고 있어요.
So the evidence for the question, isn't this too different a book, are those mistakes.
그래서 이게 좀 약간 혼란스럽게 섞여버린 것 같아요.
So I think between the two arguments, everything got mixed up and created the confusion.
그래서 글쎄요, 저는 뭐랄까 이 논란을 이렇게 들여다보면서 굉장히 많은 생각을 하게 됐어요.
I don't know, but for me, as I was looking at the controversy, it gave me a lot of thought.
사람들은 뭐랄까 이런 사람들이 있어요. 서양의 번역가가 동양의 작가가 쓴 글을 너무 마음대로 고쳐서 훼손하지 않았나?
So among people, on the one hand, there are some who think that a Western translator messed up a lot of the Eastern writer's work.
그런데 사실상 그 데보라는 상당히 충실하게 문장을 다 번역했고요.
However, Deborah very faithfully translated line by line.
뭐 문장의 순서를 바꾸거나 뭐 어떤 구조나 어떤 이야기는 전혀 건드리지 않았고 오직 문장만 가지고 작업을 했어요.
She didn't change the order of the sentences or the overall plot of the novel. She just worked sentence by sentence.
그것에 반대되는 근거로 많이 이제 인용되었던 것이 인물을 바꿨다는 그런 얘기가 있었어요. 인물. character.
One of the evidence that was used against Deborah's work was that she changed the characters in the novel.
근데 그게 이제 한 군데 나타나는데 처형이라는 이제 한국에선 친척을 부르는 이름이 굉장히 복잡한데 아내의 언니가 처형이거든요.
So an example of that was 처형, which is kind of a difficult term referring to a relative. It's the sister's,
The elder sister.
the elder
of
sister of
wife.
wife.
음,
Yeah.
처형. 처형 is that. And but 처 is wife. 형 is brother. So Deborah was confused. And so she translated 처형 into the brother of my wife. It was just once and in one scene. So it was it has been corrected, but some critics use that part and Deborah changed the characters, but it was not the truth. So 그리고 조금 아주 약간 달라지거나 생략된 문장이 있다면 한 책 전체를 통틀어서 한 두 문단 정도 되는데 그건 에디터가 한 거예요.
And if there was something that was changed significantly in the whole book, that's about 2 paragraphs, and that was the work of the editor.
그래서 전체적으로는 데보라가 뭐 함부로 이 책을 다룬 것이 아니고 성실하게 하려고 노력했다고 생각합니다.
So all in all, I think Deborah worked with my text with care and was faithful to it.
그리고 또 어떤 분들은 거꾸로, 그러니까 번역자가 작가의 작품을 훼손한 것이 아니라 번역자가 작가의 작품을 창의적으로 해서 더 좋은 것으로 만들었다는 그런 말도 있었어요.
Some have said that it wasn't the translator who injured the original work, but that the translator improved the original work.
정말 세상은 참 이상한 곳인 것 같아요.
The world is a strange place.
그래서 마치 그냥 작가와 번역자는 적인 것처럼
as if the translator and the author are enemies.
그리고 작가가 좀 더 많은 걸 차지하면 번역가는 잃어야 하고 번역가가 많은 걸 차지하면 작가는 잃어야 하는 것처럼
As if the author gains, then the translator has to lose, and if the translator gains, then the author has to lose.
저는 그런 사고방식은 믿지 않습니다.
I don't believe that in that way of thinking.
그래서 사실은 제가 하도 답답해서 한 10페이지짜리 이 문제에 대한 에세이도 썼어요.
I was so frustrated by this that I wrote a 10-page long essay.
그렇지만 여기서 이렇게 말해서 참 좋네요.
But it's great to be able to talk about it here.
감사합니다. Thank you.
감사합니다.
Those are my questions for now. I'd like to open it up to the floor, and I think what we'll have Mike Runner, and I think what I'll do is I'll collect 3 questions at a time and sort of organize them, and then Jongwon and I will work to translate back the answers.
Thank you so much for coming here and doing this program, and thanks for the translator and also Tammy. I have a very simple question, which is how I know that you've now worked together with a translator very closely. So how did Hin become the White Book? So that will be my question, and I'm asking this question after reading in Korean The Vegetarian and Human Acts. And that probably tells you that I can speak Korean, I can read Korean, but I think in English, and I feel in Korean. And the way that you read the Korean version, Hin, in Korean, and how the main subject matter was a newborn without a language, yet you're using language to describe this feeling and unspoken, something more fundamental in human nature. So for me, this book is almost a metaphor for translation. So I wanted to ask you, and even here, 모든 흰 and all whiteness, I felt like they're very different things. In Korean language, maybe the beauty might be how subject and object are missing, but you can still deliver the feeling and space and time. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a second question.
첫 번째 게
Hi, thanks for coming. That was awesome. I guess reading Hin and 소년이 온다, I've sort of noticed that you have this recurring, wonderful imagery and sort of concept of sort of around the moment of death and immediately after it. You kind of have this sort of imagery of the soul kind of hanging around the body, and it's both in Hin and 소년이 온다. And I'm just kind of curious, like, what's the thought process behind your fascination behind that sort of concept of the soul kind of physically remaining on the body? I just noticed that was kind of a recurring thing, so I was just really curious about it.
Thank you. And a third question, please.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm Korean as well, and my family is from Gwangju, so Human Acts is the most emotional and arresting portrayal of the 1980 uprising that I've ever read. And in reading your works, especially Hin and Human Acts, it seems like they speak to a lot of the tragedies of our earlier generations. And I wondered how you've been able to reach across that silence that so many people in older generations in Korea maintain, and how you were able to get, the story of your older sister who passed away as a baby, whether your mother talked about that story, and just how you were able to make that part of your life and your creative imagination.
Okay. Why don't we actually start with Human Acts? And I think it's a sort of 2-part question here. One, maybe we could address this question of the haunting, the soul's haunting, and why that is a theme. and then combine that with the third question around reaching back into history.
소년이 온다를 쓰겠다고 결심을 했던 그 저의 과정에 대해서 조금 말씀드릴게요.
I will talk briefly about how I came to write The Human Acts.
제가 어릴 때부터 가지고 있는 인간에 대한 어떤 질문들이 있어요.
There are some questions that I've had about humanity since I was young.
소년이 온다 에필로그에도 나오는데 제가 그 학살을 증언하기 위해서 만들어져서 이제 비밀리에 유통되던 사진집을 아주 어렸을 때 봤고요. 12살 때.
It's in the epilogue of Human Acts. I had when I was a kid, I had an opportunity to look at the photo collection that was a record of the massacre committed in Gwangju.
거기에서 물론 잔인하게 죽어간 사람들의 얼굴도 봤지만 자신의 피를 총상자들에게 주기 위해서 끝없이 줄을 서 있는 사람들의 모습도 봤습니다.
So there I saw not only the injured people and the violence of it all, but also I saw people getting in line to donate blood for the injured.
아주 긴 줄이었어요.
It was a very, very long line.
그리고 집에 있으면 안전했을 텐데 거기 나와서 피를 주고 돌아가는 길에 죽은 여고생도 있었습니다.
And even if it would have been safer for her to stay at home, there was also a picture of a young woman who died out trying to help out people.
그래서 그 책은 2개의 수수께끼로 이루어져 있었어요.
So the book was composed of two mysteries.
하나는 인간이 어떻게 인간에게 이렇게 잔인할 수 있는가?
One was how can human beings be so cruel to another?
그리고 어떻게 인간은 그런 폭력 앞에서 이렇게 고귀할 수 있는가? 고귀할 수 있는가?
And the second one is how can humans be so noble in front of such violence?
그런 질문을 그냥 마음속에 담아두고 성장을 했고요. 제가 언젠가 이 책을 쓸 거라는 생각은 전혀 하지 않았어요.
I grew up with these questions but never imagined that I would write about these questions.
그렇지만 제 책들 속에 어떤 내적인 투쟁이 언제나 있었어요.
However, in my books, there's always an internal struggle within me.
인간을 껴안고 싶고 세계를 껴안고 싶은데 그것이 쉽지 않은
It's difficult even though I want to embrace humans and the world.
그래서 저 자신 속으로 깊이 들어가서 제가 이 소설을 써야 한다는 사실을 갑자기 알게 되었어요.
So as I was digging deeper and deeper into myself, I realized that I had to write this novel.
저는 글을 쓰는 사람이니까 글을 쓰는 것 말고는 어떤 것을 극복할 다른 방법이 없는 거죠.
Because I am someone who writes, other than writing it out, I don't have other options.
그래서 이 책을 썼고요. 이 책을 쓰는 동안에는 계속 이제 죽은 사람들에 대해서 생각해야 했어요.
And as I was writing this, I had to think about those who died.
아까 말씀드린 것처럼 그들에게 저의 생명을 빌려준다고 생각했어요.
As I said earlier, I imagined myself giving life to them, lending life to them.
그래서 악몽도 많이 꿨고
I had a lot of nightmares.
그리고 이제 글을 쓰다가 가끔 이렇게 뒤를 돌아봤는데 꼭 누군가 와 있을 것 같았어요.
As I was writing, sometimes I sensed a presence behind me and I felt that if I turn around, someone could be there.
돌아보면 당연히 아무도 없었고
When I turned around, of course, there wasn't anyone.
그래서 삶과 죽음은 아주 정확하고 간결하고 냉혹한 것이라는 생각도 하게 됐어요.
So I also thought about how the division between life and death is very exacting and cruel and
concise. 그래서 어쩔 수 없이 계속 혼들에 대해서 생각을 하게 됐던 거죠. 그 책을 쓰는 동안.
So when as I was writing that book, I had to think about the souls of the departed.
그래서 광주에서 죽어간 사람들 중에 이제 시체가 발견된 경우에는 그 사진집을 통해서 증언할 수 있어요. 자신의 얼굴과 몸으로써.
So those who died in Gwangju, if there were photographs that were capturing their bodies, then they can testify that they have lived and died.
그렇지만 돌아오지 못한 실종자들이 있는데 그들은 자신들의 죽음을 증언할 육체도 없는 거죠.
But those who went missing, that weren't captured in the photographs, they have no way of returning and testifying that they have lived and died.
그래서 두 번째 장을 쓰면서 돌아오지 못한 사람들의 목소리를 가지고 그 두 번째 장을 쓰고 싶었어요.
So I wanted to use the second chapter to write about those who couldn't come back.
그리고 제가 어떤 상상을 했는데 혼이 이제 그 시체가 남아 있는 동안에는 그 몸으로부터 멀리 떨어져 나갈 수 없는 거죠.
So I thought to myself that as long as the corpse is there, the soul cannot leave that body.
그리고 혼들이 서로를 볼 수도 없고 대화를 할 수도 없고 마치 어떤 그림자처럼 아주 부드럽게 서로를 느낄 수만 있다고 생각했어요.
So I thought that the souls could not talk to each other or hear each other, but that they can softly feel each other's presence.
Like shadows. 그래서 그 저의 세계에서는 그리고 그 소년이 온다의 세계에서는 혼들은 아주 연약해요.
So in my world and also in Human Acts, the souls are very fragile,
그리고 구원해 줄 누구도 거기에 없어요.
and there is no one who can save them.
그래서 모든 책임은 살아 있는 자들에게만 남는 거죠.
So the responsibilities are only for those who are living.
그게 이제 제가 생각했던 혼의 모습이고요. 소년이 온다에서.
That's how I envisioned the soul in Human Acts.
그리고 제가 악몽을 많이 꾸다가 이제 소년이 온다가 출간되면 아마 악몽을 더 이상 꾸지 않을 거라고 상상했지만 그렇게 되지 않았어요.
I thought that once I was done writing Human Acts and got it published, I would stop having the nightmares, but that wasn't the case.
그래서 흰을 쓰는 동안에도 계속해서 혼에 대해서 생각해야 했고요.
So as I was writing the White Book, I had to continue thinking about the soul.
사실은 지금 쓰고 있는 책에도 혼의 이야기가 나옵니다.
And in fact, the work I'm writing right now also has stories about the soul.
제가 그 책을 쓰기로 결심했기 때문에 이것은 피할 수 없는 결과였다는 것을 이제야 받아들이고 있어요.
So I had to accept only now I realize that by writing the Human Acts, I had to have this responsibility of writing about soul.
아마 이 경험과 가끔 꾸는 악몽들과 아마 계속 같이 살아야 한다는 것을 받아들이고 있어요.
I'm accepting the fact that combined with the experience and also of all the nightmares, I will continue to have this responsibility.
Maybe it's the answer.
Maybe you could just say a little bit about the first question, which is, do you think the English translation of the White Book of Hin is faithful? And do you think there are any gaps there?
글을 쓸 때 번역에 대해서는 사실 조금도 생각하지 않아요.
When I write, I don't think about the translation at all.
심지어 독자도 생각하지 않아요.
I even don't think about the readers.
죄송합니다.
I'm sorry.
근데 이제 영어랑 한국어는 많이 다르죠.
But English and Korean are very different.
아까 질문하신 분이 말씀하신 것처럼 주어나 목적어가 종종 생략되고
As the first questioner asked, often in Korean the subject and object are missing.
그리고 동사가 아주 자유롭게 변하죠.
And Korean verbs change very freely.
그래서 하나의 동사가 아마 뭐 20몇 가지로 변할 거예요.
So one Korean verb can change into 20 different renditions.
그래서 그런 어떻게 보면 아주 많은 뉘앙스를 동사 안에 담을 수 있고
So in Korean, you can pack a lot of nuance into a word.
그만큼 함축적으로 몇 개의 단어가 많은 말을 해야 하기 때문에 어떤 면에서 좀 시적인 그런 면이 있다고 생각해요.
Because in Korean, words are very condensed and can convey so much meaning, I think Korean could be very poetic.
그래서 이 hin을 쓸 때에는 이제 주어를 안 써도 되기 때문에 굳이 나는 이로 시작하거나 그녀는 이라고 시작할 필요가 없어요.
So when I was writing the white book, because I didn't have to write the subject of every line, I didn't have to start with I or she.
그렇지만 독자는 그 컨텍스트로 미루어서 이게 나의 이야기인지 내가 상상하는 그녀의 이야기인지 그냥 알 수 있는 거죠. 직관적으로.
However, from intuition, the readers can tell whether it's regarding the I or whether it's from the perspective of the sister, as imagined by the narrator.
근데 저는 이제 그게 이 소설의 제목인 hin하고 연결된다고는 생각하지 않았는데요.
I didn't think about that connecting to the title of the book, the White Book.
아마 저는 한국어 속에서만 살고 있기 때문에
I think that's because I live monolingually in Korean.
그렇게 연결을 시켜서 생각해 보지는 않았는데 재미있는 아이디어라고 생각합니다.
I haven't made that connection, but it is very interesting.
그리고 사실은 이게 hin이라는 것이 이제 이 색깔을 말하는 형용사 한국어에 있는 두 개의 형용사 중에 하나예요.
So, hin, the word for whiteness, in that's in the title of the book, is actually one of the two adjectives for whiteness in Korean.
So, white is hin or hayan, and hayan is just color white, beautiful, pure white. But hin is a little more, can I say? It has some nuance of fate, and maybe you can say hin compared to the other colors. So 그
이게 더 희다 할 수도 말하죠.
그렇죠.
So you can compare the different kinds of whiteness through the hin that's used in the title of this book. Whereas
Yeah.
you can't do that with hayan, which is just color white.
So you can describe layers with this word hin, and it has more deeper nuance of fate and death and sorrow. And I talked about this to my British editor, and what about English? Do you have this word? And he said no, never. So maybe we thought of white, but white is it has racial connotation. So, and then the elegy of whiteness, but some people said it is pretentious title, or it's not simple as hin. Hin is just one syllable, and whiteness is still having racial connotation, so just they chose the white book. Don't you like it? I like it, but in Sweden and in Netherlands they have two words for hin, so it was lucky to have just one syllable with. In Sweden, Norwegian, and in Dutch. Yeah, hin survived in the titles.
That's amazing. I'm looking at the watch, and we want to save time for book purchases and signing, so maybe just 2 questions really quickly. There's one up here.
Thank you for that very beautiful reading. So you wrote this this book in Poland, in Eastern Europe, and and which is very refreshing. I mean, so often we read works by Western writers who are traveling to places like Asia, and here we have an Asian writer who's writing from Europe in this case. And I found myself thinking of writers like Annie Ernaux, who is very interested in the body and in women's experience, and also a writer like Sebald, who shares your interests in ghosts and in history and trauma and so on. And I wonder, this is sort of it's kind of 2 questions wrapped into one. Of what significance was it to you that you were writing in Poland? How did that shape the work? And who are do you feel an affinity with writers who are trying to break out of a traditional conception of the novel and to create a fiction of the real, as writers like Ernaux and Sebald have done?
Thank you. I think there was a hand in the back as well.
Hi. So I wrote my senior thesis on you. So I spent pretty much all of last year like crying and mourning and wondering why I decided to work on your books. But I feel like the person who I am now, like I wouldn't have become that without you. So I'm immensely grateful to you, and also some more complicated feelings about how you've changed me. My first question was what your favorite food is, just in a way to make you more real to me. And my second question is, when we think about questions of violence and trauma, like that has an effect on the body, and sometimes it can be too much for us. So when you're overcome by these moments, I was wondering, like, do you withdraw and meditate? Do you find yourself like eating food or withdrawing from food? Like, what do you do during moments like that? And also, like, I'm so in love with you and so happy that I can be in the same room.
That's amazing. Okay. Since we don't have too much time, maybe we can start with a couple of the quick ones. What do you like to eat?
Well, thank you. I'm sorry that you suffered a lot. 제가 뭘 좋아하죠?
I'm not sure what I like.
그냥 뭐 음식은 어려운 것 같아요. 그냥 아무 생각 없이 먹으면 먹을 수 있지만 또 민감해지면 잘 먹을 수 없고.
Food is difficult. So when I eat without thought, I can eat anything, and when I feel sensitive, I can't eat very well.
So do you eat when you are having a hard time, or what do you do when you're having a hard time with your work?
It depends. 힘들면 잘 못 먹어요.
When I am under stress, I cannot eat very well.
그리고 트라우마에 대한 작업이 신체에 미치는 영향, 그리고 어떻게 극복하느냐 그런 얘기를 물으셨는데 사실 그 얘기를 지금 쓰고 있어요.
For the question about the trauma's effect on my body and what I do to overcome that, I am actually writing about that right now.
그래서 저의 악몽들에 대해서 쓰고 있습니다.
So I'm writing about my nightmares.
다 완성이 되면 그게 아마 이 질문에 대한 긴 대답이 되지 않을까 생각이 되네요.
I think when I complete this work, that would be a long answer to your question.
Please wait.
And then maybe we can take the question up front, which was, why
yeah.
did you write this in Poland, and are there particular writers or influences on this kind of storytelling?
제가 소년이 온다를 소년이 온다를 열심히 쓰고 있었던 2013년에 저의 폴란드 번역자가 한국에 와서 잠깐 만났어요.
When I was feverishly writing Human Acts in 2013, the Polish editor visited Korea.
Translator.
A translator visited Korea.
Her name is Justina, and we talked about 5월의 신부, May Bride or May Priest. We discussed a lot, and suddenly she invited me to this residency the next year, and I said yes, why not? And maybe it will be after I publish this book, so maybe I can take some refuge in Poland. And at the time I didn't think about the history of Poland that much, and after the book was published, and I told everyone I'm leaving to Poland to take a rest, and people asked me, why are you leaving to this country with such a sad history? And then I realized. 그리고 거기 가서 이제 아까 읽어드렸던 그 박물관에 가게 됐죠.
And when I went there, when I visited the museum that was featured in the excerpt earlier.
그리고 그때 제가 이제 이미 흰 것에 대한 책을 조금 시작하고 있었어요.
By that point, I already had started writing about white things.
그런데 그 영상을 봤을 때 내가 흰 도시에 왔구나라는 걸 깨닫게 된 거죠.
And when I saw the video recording, I realized that I have arrived at a white city.
그리고 그 도시가 나의 언니를 닮았다고 생각했어요.
And I thought that city resembled my sister.
그녀의 운명을 내가 변화시키려 하는, 그녀에게 새 삶을 주려고 하는 바로 그녀를 닮았다고 생각했습니다.
I thought it resembled also my efforts to change my sister's life, that I was trying to give life to her. I thought it resembled that effort.
그래서 가끔 글을 쓸 때 뭔가 설명하기는 어렵지만 아주 많은 것들이 한꺼번에 일어나서 자 이거야 라고 말해주는 것 같은 순간이 있어요.
Even though it's very difficult because I want to convey so much when I write, there are moments where I feel like everything come together and I know what the main message is.
It's like everything tells me this is this, you just write this. It's something like that feeling. 그리고 아까 말씀하셨던 제발트도 좋아하고요. 제발트.
I also like Zebalt, who you mentioned earlier.
그리고 프리모 레비.
And also Primo Levi.
특히 저는 이제 주기율표, The Periodic Table.
Especially I like the periodic table.
어떤 특별히 그 책들의 영향을 받아서 이 책을 쓴 것은 아니지만 그런 작가들을 좋아합니다.
I didn't write this book from influence from these authors, but I do like those authors.
감사합니다. Thank you all so much. We're going to have a book signing in the back, but please join me in thanking 한강.
감사합니다.